The common story that you hear a lot is, from people in the business, that they love movies as a kid and going to the movies is the greatest thing. And, that's how they, were inspired. That wasn't my story. Like most kids, I like movies, I go see movies, but I never thought of it as a career. It never drew me in as what I wanted to do in my teen years. Mine is a little bit different in that I sort of didn't know what I wanted to do, and I finished school and kicked around a couple of different jobs, not really finding what I wanted to do. And then I read a magazine article about what a film producer does. And it was it was an epiphany. It was so inspiring to me.
Is there anything better than a trip getting ready? Nope. For a long journey where our podcast released a new app and searching for a fade fiend, a new fixation. Giving this a subscribe is the same sensation. Started with the day ones, they gave us fuel to support the season. Could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here for a reason. Notification bells, have some friends, all to let you know. Check your Bluetooth, connect, talk your way to not.
Welcome in, everyone. This episode, rolling the reel behind the scenes with our guest, Nicholas Tabarrok. On this episode, we sit down with Nicholas Tabarrok, a prolific film and television producer whose company, Darius Films, has brought over 40 feature films to life, working with Hollywood icons like Ethan Hawke, Woody Harrelson, and Nicolas Cage. From navigating the ever-changing landscape of the entertainment industry to premiering films at the world's most prestigious festivals, Nicholas shares behind-the-scenes insights into what it takes to bring a great story to the screen. Whether you're a film buff, an aspiring producer, or just love a good Hollywood story, hopefully our conversation is going to pack you with some wisdom, a little inspiration, and maybe even a few surprises. Nicholas, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Dan. I appreciate it. Thank you for that kind introduction. I'm hopeful I can rise to the challenge.
Let's get into what I always like to do. Your last name. I hope I didn't butcher too much. I try to stay sterile when it comes to guests. I don't want to be too influenced by other interviews because I want my inquisitive nature to take over. So there's no inside jokes or info, but I gotta know the proper pronunciation and the origins of that last name.
So pronunciation, you nailed it. You got it exactly right. So thank you for that, because people often do get it wrong, which I'll be honest with you, it sort of frustrates me because it's phonetic. Like people look at the name and they go, I don't know how to pronounce that. Sound it out. Tabarrok, like it is phonetic. So but you nailed it. So you pronounced it exactly right. I wasn't expecting this question, so it wasn't one I prepared for. But because you asked, my last name actually has a fascinating history. So if you'll humor me for a minute, give me a few minutes runway here.
Sure.
I'll tell you. My grandfather and his three brothers, they had a different last name. Their original last name was, I might be slightly off the pronunciations, Sarakov. And they were living in Russia. And they were living in Russia during the Russian Revolution, and they had to flee because they were of the kind of the upper class. They were they weren't aristocrats, but they were sort of merchants. They were the upper class. And of course, the Russian Revolution was the rebellion, the peasant sort of class. Bolsheviks, exactly right. Yeah. So my grandfather and his three brothers fled, and they left Russia behind, and they went to Iran. And on the Iranian border, they had to change their name because their name, Sarakov, sort of gave indications of their background, and they had to come up with a new name. On the spot, they took the first letter of each brother's first name, T, B, R, and K, and invented and created a last name right down the spot at the border. So Tabarrok, it's only been around since the 50s. Like the 30s. And there's only every Tabarrok in the world is a direct relation of mine. There's only like a couple hundred of us, not like Smith or Jones or Lee, and the name is an invented name. So it's a self-created name. So it's a kind of interesting story.
Nicholas, ty gavrish paruski?
So no, it's very impressive that you do. I was born and grew up in Canada, where my parents moved. So I speak neither Farsi, which is the Iranian Persian language, nor Russian. So I am unilingual, but much to my chagrin and regret.
No, I'm sure they didn't get to use too much of it when they got to Iran. It's the old, if you don't use it, lose it.
Correct.
And it's so hard when you live a new place to try to hold on to those cultural items, especially back then when you don't really want to stick out too much. You're trying to blend. Yeah. What about Canada, though? There's so many. So I went to Montreal, Nicholas, and actually rode a motorcycle into Canada.
Oh, fun.
From Boston.
That'd be a great trip. It was the summer. That would have been a great trip.
It was the summer. It was a great trip. So I'm standing there in Montreal outside of some club and with a couple other buddies that we drove up with. And that's when it hit us. Hey, guys, there's some beautiful ladies coming out of here, but we don't speak French. And we've been shot down 2 or 3 times because no one wants to speak English back to us.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask there, did any French kind of trickle? Did your parents grab a little French?
No. So the story is, so my dad born and grew up in Iran, but he was sent to England for boarding school at quite a young age. So he was schooled in England, grew up in England from, 6, 8 years old, something like that. And my mom's British. So he and my mother met in England, got married there, moved to Canada. My dad was a university professor, and it was the University of Toronto who hired him and gave him his first job. They moved to Toronto, Canada, and that's where me and my 2 brothers were born and grew up. And the English Canada, by law, we had to study French in school, but it's not French speaking. So it's not like you're walking the streets of Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton. People don't speak French. So I have a little bit of French still from my high school years that kind of stuck in my brain somewhere, but I'm definitely not bilingual.
I do okay in Canada. The English speaking countries, I do pretty well. Israel, for some reason, I got a little bit of a following over there. So hello, everyone over in Israel.
Okay, cool.
But for those who haven't traveled, I have. Who's got the better view of Niagara Falls, Toronto or the Buffalo side?
The Buffalo side has the better view because the better falls are on the Canadian side. So Canada has the better fall. It's the larger falls, the more volume, the more water. That's on the Canadian side. So if you're in Buffalo, you're looking at the great falls, and you're in Canada, you're looking at the smaller one. So Canada has the better falls, but Buffalo's get the better view.
Well, thanks for humoring me with that, because there's some people that don't know. Whenever I can, I love to insult people's geographical knowledge, to offer things to them, because the world is beautiful. I've been to some different countries, lived in Germany for 3 years.
Oh my God! Wow.
I'm telling you,
you Deutsch?
I'm just ja. Ich komme aus Bavaria.
Okay, all right. Yeah, not me. No, that's all I got. But
okay.
That's amazing that you're so well traveled. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. I really have had some great opportunities to go different places, and I think I'm the better for it. It's just been a blast.
Yes, absolutely. It opens your eyes.
Let's get into. We mentioned some things. Let's start like at your early career and your inspiration. So, what initially drew you to the world of film and television production?
Yeah. So, the common story that you hear a lot is, from people in the business, that they love movies as a kid and going to the movies is the greatest thing. And, that's how they, were inspired. That wasn't my story. I, like most kids, I like movies. I go see movies, but I never thought of it as a career. It never drew me in as what I wanted to do in my teen years. Mine is a little bit different in that I sort of didn't know what I wanted to do, and I finished school and kicked around a couple of different jobs, not really finding what I wanted to do. And then I read a magazine article about what a film producer does. And it was it was an epiphany. It was so inspiring to me because I was sort of struggling between, I love the arts. I love creative endeavors. I love books. I love music. I love reading, watching, listening to music, all that. I love everything artistic, visual arts, painting,
Yeah.
But I know I don't have the talent and skill to be an artist myself. I'm just aware of that. And I also like business. Like I like numbers. I'm naturally pretty good with numbers, and I sort of like, it's very nerdy, but I like playing with spreadsheets. I like kind of Excel. I like business. I like contracts. It's, again, very nerdy, but I like negotiating contracts. I like legal language. I like talking to lawyers. And it's very rare to have a job that combines those two things. Most jobs, you kind of one or the other. And when I read about this job, what a producer does is one foot in both worlds. It's a very creative job because you're giving it, even though you're not the individual who is doing the writing, directing, acting, you're giving your feedback on that. But it's also a very business-minded job. If you don't have a good head for business, you're not going to succeed as a producer. And you're dealing with contracts all day, you're dealing with numbers all day, you're dealing with budgets and spreadsheets. So this combination of the right brain, left brain that involved both of them so satisfied me. And that's what made me pursue it as a career. So funny enough, it wasn't the end product itself that like, oh, I love movies, I want to make movies. It was, oh my God, this is what would engage my brain. That sounds amazing. So that's what I did. Yeah. And look, there are good days and bad days, there are struggles and so forth, but generally speaking, it's proven to be true. And I really love the job, and it's the greatest job I can imagine.
So I can already tell you, let me, this hat comes with powers.
Okay, all right.
Nicholas, I know that your friends reach out to you and they ask you to read over contracts, check things out, run things past you for your opinion. They try to go into the fine print, maybe get you to proofread some things. How close am I there?
Your magic hat works. You're absolutely right. I have friends who would, can you take a look at this? What do you think of this? Is this the right way to do things? Or do you have a sample contract for me? Yes, you're absolutely right about that.
Yes. Yeah. When you let that cat out the bag, I have a lot of like if some of my fraternity brother gave me this, I have a lot of fraternity brothers that are attorneys, and when people that have JDs, I know what they get, and I know what they say they either are good at or like to do, and you embody those characteristics there.
Right.
So I did expect that. Was there a specific film or filmmaker though that when you also looked at, you kind of you maybe see yourself, or even now that's someone that I don't want to say you're competing against, but you're saying, yeah, because the reason I ask is some of us, we look at Zack Snyder and we're like, hey, give the guy free reign, let him do those that are in the nerd channels that I travel in. Yeah. And so I was just kind of curious, like your opinion when it comes to other filmmakers, and then even him, because we all think from here going forward, because of his following, maybe he'll get free reign.
Yeah, it's a great question, and for sure, I do have producers that whose career I so admire and want to emulate. Now, because the producers, they're not going to be household names like Zack Snyder and Chris Nolan, and the general public tends to know the names of the big directors, but not the producers behind it. So some of the names I am about to mention may not be known to many or any of your listeners, but There's this guy, Irwin Winkler. And Irwin Winkler, I look at his career with such admiration. He's he's in his 90s now, so he's been doing this a long time. But I look at his career with such admiration. He produced, I was about to say started with, it may not be literally his first movie, but early in his career, he produced Rocky, which was, of course, an incredible, movie and a ground setter. And then I might be slightly wrong about some of these, but he did, I think, Once Upon a Time in the West with Robert. No, not Once Upon a Time. Once Upon a Time in America, which I loved. I loved that film. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure he produced Goodfellas, which is one of the greatest films of all time. So he's just and he produced, I believe, Martin Scorsese's 2 films ago, the one about Jimmy Hoffa, the Irishman, which I love. Pacino, Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro. Probably Irwin Winkler has been, I'm guessing, Martin Scorsese's most frequent collaborator, and probably Robert De Niro's most frequent collaborator. So you look at that body of work and that career, and you say, my God, if I could have 10% of that quality on my resume, that would be amazing. And what I love about his work, which I would love to come close to, is, there were the huge, producers, they do the Transformer movies and Fast and Furious, and they make tons of money and they're incredibly successful. And I have nothing but admiration for them. But that's not what I want to do. I don't really watch those movies. Those aren't the movies I'm drawn to. Yeah. And then you can have producers who make, really incredible art films, prestige art movies that are beautiful movies, but not a lot of people are going to see them and they're not going to make much money. I kind of want to be somewhere in the middle. I want to make movies that are intended for a wide audience, that a lot of people are going to see, but have a level of artistry that kind of rises above like the base level, Yeah. So that's where I'd love to live.
What was your first major project that made you feel like you had made it in the industry?
I have not made it. I've never felt like I've made it.
That you were proud of, and you kind of tell your friends, that's me, right?
I'm not trying to be evasive. I'm not trying to be, cute to my answer. I mean this really sincerely. I haven't got there. It's always, you want it to be the next one. You want it to be you're struggling to make it great. You're struggling to make it, what you really want to achieve. Having said that, the movie that kind of broke me out of being a complete unknown, like that's that people in the industry had awareness of, that on my resume, on my IMDb, I'm sure you know what that is. Yes. That people recognize. And I think you mentioned him off the top. Woody Harrelson was this movie with Woody Harrelson called Defendor. Mm-hmm. And Defendor played at the Toronto International Film Festival, which is one of the highest profile, biggest film festivals in the world, certainly top 3. It was a really buzzy film. A lot of people saw it. A lot of people talked about it. And it was that classic film thing that every filmmaker wishes for. There was an auction. A lot of buyers wanted it. People were coming out after the screening bidding for it. And we had sort of this bidding war. And we sold the film at like 2:00 in the morning to Sony. And it was my first film being released by a major studio. And that went out there. And that's the film that kind of most people have seen, have awareness of, that got the highest profile release.
Yeah, so you've worked with an incredible range of actors. I mentioned earlier, Ethan Hawke, Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
What makes an actor stand out to you as a producer?
Another good question, because the answer, it's a really good question, especially on the heels of what we talked about what drew me to this job.
Yeah.
Because this may seem like a little bit of a cynical answer, but I'm going to answer it honestly and truthfully, because that's what I want to give to your listeners. I have to love the actor for their work. I have to think that okay, they're talented and they're great and they're right for the role. That's first and foremost.
Yeah.
But it's a business, and I have to know that actor is going to help me get the financing I need, close the deal, and sell tickets. So you mentioned Ethan Hawke, great actor, super talented, but also beloved, has a big fan base. People know who he is. So he checks both those boxes. Kurt Russell, same thing. So Woody Harrelson, same thing. So it really is those two things. And I wish I lived in a world where it was like just great acting and talent and all that. Doesn't matter if they're famous. Doesn't matter if they've been in a huge movie. This is the great act. I can't. I don't live in that world because I won't get the film made. So it has to check both those boxes. The actor needs to have commercial appeal, and somebody who I really think is talented and I would love to work with.
I want to play a guessing game.
Hit me.
What do you think my favorite Woody Harrelson movie is?
Oh my gosh. He's done so many great ones.
Yes.
I don't know you well enough yet to pretend to know, but so here's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a cheat of an answer.
Okay.
Which is what I think is one of his greatest movies. And if it happens to be your favorite, then that means we're in sync.
Yes.
But tell me the truth if I'm wrong. I absolutely loved the Hustler, the Larry Flint, movie. I thought he was so incredible in that film. I was blown away by it. He's done a lot of amazing movies, but
he has.
The Larry Flint movie, was it called Flint? What was it called? Or The People versus Larry Flint, maybe?
Oh, yeah. I think that's it.
Yeah. So, but I can tell by your reaction that wasn't it. So you tell me.
That's a good one. No, it's a good one. And to be honest, it's unfair for anything after, but it's the guessing game. Indecent Proposal with Demi Moore, Robert Redford.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Sheesh. Oh my gosh. I mean, talking about so that came out. I was coming of age as a man. I was young. I did not see myself learning so much at that time, because I would have been like, heck yeah, I would take the money. But then after you see the movie and you see, I get it. And it just always stayed with me. I've made so many references. I know it's been remade. I haven't seen the remake.
It's been remade, that movie?
It did get remade maybe 2 years ago. It's pretty recent.
Okay.
I haven't watched it, but
no.
Yeah, that was it. And I'm a big Sade fan, and she had some music in the movie too.
Right.
When it's time to put movie music in, Nicholas, we want to know, what are the thoughts? Do you go with tried and true? Do you try to stay current? And I know we do some period pieces.
Yeah.
So I know that this can go a lot of different ways. But could you kind of give us, we want to get behind the scenes. What are some of the talks like when it comes to music?
That is certainly one of my favorite parts of the process. I'm doing it right now, like literally this morning. One of the things I was doing before we have this call together was listening to music against the last movie that I made and putting it and choosing it and so forth. So the month of February, we're just starting March. The month of February was really about selecting songs to put in this current movie that we're in post on. So it's very, very current for me. And I just love the process, because you've got the scene, you've got the writing, and then what song works better? Does this song work better, or does this song? Does this, and you're kind of balancing and trying to figure it out and so forth. Yeah. So I love it. And to me, what you're looking for, you don't want it to overpower the scene. You don't want the music to be bigger than what's happening on screen. Because all of a sudden, if you're, the music is taking over my attention, and I'm all of a sudden not paying attention to what the actors are doing or what the scene is about. So you don't want it to overpower and be bigger than that. But but you want it to complement it. You don't want it to be invisible either. Like if the music of the song does nothing to enhance it, does nothing to add it, then it's not a good choice. And of course, the worst of all is if the music actively contradicts what you're seeing on scene. If the music is actually pulling you out of it.
Yes.
And sometimes you have what's called counterpunctual, which is you're deliberately putting a piece of music which is opposite to what you're seeing on screen, but in a deliberate way to cause an emotion. A very, very famous example of this is Clockwork Orange. So in Clockwork Orange, if you remember Malcolm McDowell torturing people, doing these horrific, awful things, but it's that upbeat, sweet, what was the song? Not Over the Rainbow, but a like a really sweet, upbeat, gentle song.
Sure.
And that wasn't a mistake. That was very, very deliberate. So sometimes you play with that. So I love it. Music is essential, both the original composition and the picking of songs. But boy, is it a skill set. Like that is a skill set unto itself. And I think Martin Scorsese is the master. Like I think, when you watch, for example, and if anyone is listening to this, after I give this example, pause, go onto YouTube and pull up this clip.
Yeah.
In Goodfellas, everything's falling apart. People are ratting people out. They don't want to be caught. So De Niro and Pesci sort of go on a killing spree to kill all the loose ends and tie up all the loose ends, so the cops can't find a witness. And the scene is a montage of discovering all these dead bodies, and it's over the second half of Layla. And it's just so moving and so beautiful and so soaring. And that's just one example. But Marty Scorsese is a genius at putting songs to picture in a way that is just wow.
A nod back to Irv Winkler. I can think of in Rocky. Dun, 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 dun.
What a score. What an incredible score.
And then I think also John Travolta walking down the street. I think he is still eating off of that in his career. And I think he just did it in this past holiday season. He was Santa Claus, and he's walking down the street, and he goes in, and the lady who cashes him out is the young lady from Saturday Night. And so, those are the two examples to me where the music probably just takes us all back to those movies.
Absolutely.
The movies are great in their own right, but those are two scenes that
amazing examples, fantastic examples. Saturday Night Fever, the Bee Gees, Staying Alive, and walking down the street. I mean, it's iconic, right? It's amazing.
It is.
And that is as good an example as mine, maybe even a better example, Donato, the perfect example of marrying picture and music in a way that's just perfection.
So while we're talking behind the scenes, let's get to the tough stuff.
Okay.
I've been giving you cream puffs now. We'll with the hard stuff here. Okay. What are some of the behind the scene challenges of producing films at a high level that most people don't see?
Yeah, I mean, that's a long conversation because it's tough. It's I guess I would say when things go right, it's still really hard because, they're not cheap to do. If you want to be a painter, cost of canvas and paint and brushes is pretty cheap. You want to write a poem, you even want to write a novel, laptop and time, right? It's pretty cheap.
Yes.
You want to make a movie, it involves 100 people minimum. I mean, smaller films can do it for less, but let's say you're typically even a small indie film. It's 100 people working for many, many months. You need to feed them. You need a lot of expensive gear. Post-production takes expensive gear that you have to pay for. You're renting props and wardrobe and locations. You're kicking somebody out of their house. You're paying them thousands of dollars a day. You're closing down a store or a restaurant to shoot your movie. You're paying them thousands of dollars. So movies are expensive. It's not easy to raise money. So that's probably the single hardest thing is raising money to get the film made. Once you've done that, it's still not easy because so much can go wrong. I mean, I've had weather
No.
canceled days. I've had people be injured. I won't mention names, but I can tell you the story if you're interested. I've had actors with awful drug addiction issues, which caused difficulties and pain, and have to recast at the last moment. I shot a film in Poland, and we had 2 years ago, and we had booked the film, we had scheduled a film, and then the Ukraine war broke out, which is neighbor to Poland, and Ukrainian refugees are rushing into Poland. One of our actors, and very understandably, I don't begrudge it, said, you know what, I don't think I want to be in Poland right now. I'm kind of worried for my safety. And that actor dropped out, and I had to replace them at a moment's notice. So things that you can't predict and can't project, all kinds of things come up that make it difficult.
What's one of the most memorable or unexpected moments from working on a set? That, you know, when you even now, you gave us one example, but you know, there's probably some things like when you start off, you're at a party and everyone's like, hey, that's Nicholas Tabarrok, go over there. And they're talking to you.
That's never happened.
There's probably one or two that you lead with, you know, memorable things. What are the things that stand out that you're just so proud? The most memorable?
Yeah, I sort of have, this has probably got more to do with my own mental makeup than it does with my career, but I reject the word proud. I don't like to feel, there's something about the word pride and proud. I feel like the should be proud of their work is the firefighters that put out the fires, and nurses and Doctors Without Borders, and those people, and high school teachers, especially in underprivileged schools that don't have a lot of financial support. Those people have a lot to be proud of in their career and their job and their work. I don't feel I deserve to be proud for what I do, but that's a really psychological, on the psychiatrist couch aside. So to answer your question, it's funny, I've never thought of it till I'm answering you right now.
Oh, great!
But I'm glad. But you're making me do a bit of a deep dive, because on set I don't immediately go, oh, that moment was incredible, or this moment was amazing, and I think it's because that it's work, and not in a bad way, but it's still it's work, and I've been blessed to see some incredible performances and so forth. But it doesn't. I'm not an outsider viewing it. It's I'm there to work. I've got a job to do. I'm keeping an eye on things. So I'm sort of too deep into it to have that remove. But to answer your question, two kind of experiences immediately come to mind. So I shot a series of films in the Cayman Islands during COVID in 2021.
Yeah. And
the circumstances were that because the Cayman Islands was completely isolated, and they could close their borders. I mean, really unusual. Not many countries can just say, no, nobody's allowed in, nobody's allowed out. A, you got to be a really small country with a small population to be able to do that. And B, you got to literally be an island. So Cayman Islands was able to do that. It is one of the few places in the world, maybe the only place, but certainly one of the few that didn't have COVID, because they just stopped the borders. So I get this call during the height of COVID, when everything is shut down, when every Starbucks in the country is closed, when the restaurants are closed, when boarded up, we're all wearing masks. The height of that, I get a call from a financier who says, hey, the Cayman Islands doesn't have COVID. Life is normal there. What do you think about shooting movies in the Cayman Islands? And I said, dude, I'll go anywhere to shoot movies. So we made a slate of movies there. And because it was closed down, the cast and crew of the films were like the only, other than the people that lived there, were the only visitors to the island. And of course, this is a tourist-heavy island. So we basically owned a hotel. We took over this beautiful, gorgeous hotel. We're the only people staying there. We're the only people at the pool. We're the only people at the restaurant. We're the only people in the gym. All these great restaurants that would be sitting there empty, and they're so happy to have us because we're giving them business. Yeah. So it was such a fantastic bonding experience. And that from that experience, has now, today, 3 years later, 4, 5, 6 incredible friendships that I expect to have for the rest of my life. Just being that close under a dome, so to speak, or in a bubble. And we would go and shoot the film during the daytimes, and then at night we'd come back to the hotel and we'd sit around this fire pit, and I'd have my whiskey and we'd have a cigar and we'd listen to music. I mean, that was a life experience that I'm gonna have the rest of my life. And it was just it was work, but it was also such a great human experience. That really resonated with me.
Oh, it sounds like it. I'm glad we asked that, because you just took us there and I could see it. And that almost sounds like a movie in itself. The lifelong relationships that come out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely the premise of a movie there. If you injected a little bit of fiction in there, it's like someone's murdered, Yeah.
Or a husband and wife are there, but the wife fell in love with Nicholas.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, with streaming platforms changing the landscape nowadays, how's your approach to producing TV and films evolved?
Yeah, so it's a really smart question. It's the making of the film is kind of the same, the finding a piece of material, hopefully developing it, making it better, working with a writer, trying to pull out some great stuff from that person, putting a director on it if there isn't a director on it already, casting the film, going out and raise. So all that kind of is the same. And then once you're shooting, nothing's different. Theaters, Netflix, HBO, doesn't really matter where it's ultimately going to be seen. On set, it's the identical thing. It's really the financing and the release that have changed. I'm an indie film guy, so even at my most successful, I've never had a film I would love to. I'm not saying this is by choice, it's more just by opportunity. I've never had a film be out on 3,000 screens. I've never sort of had that experience of a really wide release that every multiplex around the country is carrying one of my movies. I just make smaller, more independent films. But even in the world that I exist in, it used to be 100 screens, 250 screens. That's really rare now. It's become polarized. Either you're, Captain America and you're on 3,000 screens or whatever the count is these days in every screen, or you're kind of on none, or you're on 5 or something. So the theatrical business used to be kind of tiered. Like it was always huge for the massive movies, for the big studio movies. But then there was room for, smaller movies. 3,000 screens, maybe this would be 1,000 screens. That would be 500 screens, maybe 200 screens. The middle has kind of dropped out of it. So it's really just big films now. So my expected release on my films now, where more people are going to see my movies is definitely at home. It's going to be on Netflix or Hulu or Amazon or what have you. Yeah. So it changes where people see the film. Yeah. It doesn't change how I go about my job putting it together.
No. So your films are premiered at some of the world's most prestigious film festivals. What's the biggest advantage of getting a film into a major festival? Because some of us don't understand. I've heard of Toronto. I used to live in Savannah, Georgia, and they have a nice little festival. But the major, and I've actually never been, but a major festival.
Yeah.
What's the biggest advantage?
I can't emphasize enough how advantageous it is. Premiering at a festival, a major one, can be the difference between success and failure, can be the difference between selling and not selling, can be the difference between, it can have a huge difference to you. And when I say the major festivals, it really is, I'm going to forget one or two, so I'm going to offend somebody inevitably. But it's Cannes, it's Venice, it's Sundance, it's Toronto, Tribeca, South by Southwest, Berlin. To have your film at one of those festivals, it means several things. All the buyers are going to be there. So someone from Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, Warner Brothers, Neon, A24, every single buyer is attending those festivals looking at movies to either buy them or to be aware of the talent, to track them, to know what's going on. So all the industry is there, then all the press is there. So if you want the general public to hear about your movie, you want someone from the New York Times or CNN or whomever whatever you get your news from, wherever you get your coverage from, to be at those festivals to write about your films. So it's I guess the word really is exposure. If I have to put it down to one word, if you have a great movie that nobody gets to see or know about, even if the movie's great, and this happens every day, man. Every day there's a great movie that just didn't get seen, and it's a tragedy. So having it premiere at those festivals is I can't tell you how much it helps. I mean, to use a very, very recent example, I don't know when this episode's going to air, but we're talking 2 days after the Oscars. So, Nora just swept the Oscars, and Nora premiered. It was, I should have done my homework, but I'm pretty sure it premiered at Cannes. So being at Cannes, seen in front of the buyer, seen in front of the industry, written about. So the benefit that gives to that movie is huge.
Yeah. Oh well, we're gonna post this tonight. It'll be ready.
Oh, you're that quick! Wow, your turnaround's fast.
Yes,
okay.
Tonight we will have this one going. What do you look for when selecting which films to produce? I mean, you were just talking about good films are made, but if they don't get that visibility. So when you're selecting films, what are you looking for?
Yeah. So this may not be a smart business decision. Some producers and companies very clearly define themselves. And, Blumhouse, we make horror films, and Judd Apatow, we make comedies, and Spielberg, we make kind of sci-fi epic type things, or J.J. Abrams. And those are really, really successful companies, producers, individuals. So clearly they're doing something right. Whether it's a mistake or not, I just don't know. I just want to make what I respond to on a personal level. Okay. So I'm not a big rom-com guy. I don't go out and see all the rom-coms, but I was sent a rom-com last year. I thought it was so fresh, so charming, so original, so witty. I was like, yeah, and I haven't made it yet, but I was like, I want to make this movie. I want to try to get this rom-com made because I love it. And, I'm not a big sports fan. Like, I don't really love sports, but I was sent a baseball movie. And again, I thought the script was so good. The premise was so good. The writing was so sharp. I think there's a great movie in here. So I'm not following baseball, but this baseball movie really speaks to me. So I want to try to get it made. So it really comes down to and of course there has to be, I think, a market for it. Maybe I'll read a script and say, I love it, but I don't think there's a big enough market. The other filter, I suppose, is, if it's going to take $200 million, then I know it's not for me. I know that it's sort of not the world that I play in and live in. So if I read a script and it's a Viking epic battle, Game of Thrones, type thing, it's going to take $150 million to do right. I'm not going to get that from the market. So that doesn't happen often because I don't get sent those scripts. But yes, I would also choose things about what I think is feasible for me to pull together.
So then there are two things. I thought you maybe mentioned one of them. So let me see if these can sway you. I got it. If it appeals to you.
Yes.
But what if there's a director? You're going to get to work with Donato. He's this up and coming director. Let's just stay with me there. Yeah. Now, if you could work with Donato to direct it, would that sway you?
It's a great, that's a smart observation. You're right. If with all due respect to this Donato guy, I'm sure he's super talented. And I heard
he's really talented.
I hear he's great. But if, again, this isn't going to happen in the real world because they don't need me. But if Chris Nolan brought me a script, if P.T. Anderson brought me a script, if Spike Lee, Ryan Coogler brought me a script, do I want to work with it because it's those people?
Yeah.
100%. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a really good point to add. The talent is also a draw.
Now, this is the one, and I don't want to offend you here. And then they always say that, and then they offend you.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
we're here to be offended.
I don't want to offend you, but what's with your haircut? Yeah.
Yeah. The marketability, though.
Yeah.
So now you said rom-com. Now well, one of my favorite movies of all time is Love Jones. It's got Lorenz Tate, Nia Long. I hope that it's not necessarily a rom-com, but it's one of my favorite. It didn't get the commercial appeal, but it spoke to me. I'm still enamored with it to this day.
Great.
But when I say marketability, there's got to be something where you just say, oh, wait a minute. This is going to be something, it's going to have Lorenz Tate. So he came off of Boys in the Hood. Yep. He did Dead Presidents. I may have the timeline wrong there. And Nia Long, she came out of sorry, he did Menace to Society. Nia Long was in Boys in the Hood with Cuba Gooding Jr. So when you think of marketability, maybe someone says, hey, we've got, you know what, I'm going to do this again. We've got this amazing actor named Donato. He's going to be on. The director is so, but we know we could get this guy. So can that sway you, or has that swayed you?
I feel like you're catching me with a bunch of great questions for me to revise my answers. It's like, oh, Bobby, you mentioned it. Yes, if someone came to me and said Gary Oldman is attached to this movie,
yes,
like, I get to work with Gary Oldman. Yes. Where do I sign? Robert De Niro is making this movie. I'm like, sign me up. So yes, that's a very good point. Denzel, Would I turn down an opportunity to work with someone of that level? No.
Okay. Because I was just thinking it through as you mentioned it, and I was like, man, I don't know. I think I would. So I was just wondering, because that's why I said maybe I'd offend you, because I was like,
no.
Am I a sellout? Like, I'm not really interested in it, but they're going to sway me with this. That's how I felt, and that's why I thought it might offend you.
But behind your question, I don't get hired. Like, people don't come to me and say, "Will you produce this?" It's all self-generated. So it's not like your theoretical examples.
Yeah,
it didn't really work that way. Like, it's not like somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, we've got a movie with Gary Oldman. Do you want to produce it?" In very rare cases, I sometimes hear that, and more often than not, they don't actually have that actor attached. But usually, I'm the guy trying to get the actor. That I get just the script with nothing, and it's part of my job to put the director on it and then go get the actors.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's the other order. It's the other way around.
But see, we're learning. Our listeners, we're learning. Good. This is that behind the scenes stuff I promised them when we started. Okay, how do you navigate selling and distributing films worldwide? I mean, do they know about you over in China? Can anyone in Finland say your name? I mean,
definitely not.
Because I feel like you got to have, again, I could be wrong. You got to know people, or you go through a company or some helper.
Correct.
So how do you navigate selling and distributing films worldwide?
So you answered it right there. I don't do that directly. So I engage a sales company to do that for me. So sometimes when I'll sell it to one company that takes the whole world, so you're not selling it all over the world. The streamers famously, they kind of changed the market, the way the market works. It used to be that films would just sell, like exactly said, Finland, China, Japan, Australia. Now the streamers are like, no, we want the whole world. We don't want to divide this up. So sometimes you only ever make one sale. But in the indie world, it still happens that you're selling around the world. I don't do that. I don't pick up the phone and call my guy in Finland and Germany. You got a sales agent, and there are these sales agents. That's exactly what they do. So a really good sales agent, to your point, they know someone in Finland, they know someone in Germany, they know someone in Austria, they know someone in France and Spain and Italy, and they just pick up the phone and they're selling to these people. But then the other part of your question is, definitely nobody knows me, and nobody's going to buy a film because I'm part of it. And that goes for any producer. I mentioned my hero, Irwin Winkler. No one's going to buy a movie because Irwin Winkler produced it. Even at that highest level, he doesn't trigger any sales. It's the actors. That's where the actors come in. That's why you need an Ethan Hawke, a Woody Harrelson, a Nick Nolte, a Snoop Dogg to sell your movie.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about teaching and giving back. You taught film producing at Shanghai University, and you've also lectured worldwide. Wait a minute. Is Shanghai someplace down in the valley next to
No, I'm talking about the real Shanghai. There's probably a restaurant called, Shanghai somewhere. I'm talking about the real one, the city of 30 million people in China. Yeah.
What was talk us through it?
Amazing.
What were your takeaways?
So the reason why I was there is that Shanghai University has a film school, and they very deliberately wanted to distinguish their film school from the Beijing film schools. So Beijing University also has a film school, and the Beijing University Film School teaches Chinese style filmmaking, how films are made in China. Shanghai said, well, if we're going to do something differently, we don't want to compete directly with them. Let's set ourselves apart and do something differently. Let's teach North American style filmmaking. Let's teach people our students, how they make films in North America. So they hired all of their tutors and teachers from North America. So I was there with a Canadian, a couple Americans, a guy from Mexico. So they brought us all over there. And a friend of mine was already there. He was a screenwriting professor. The producing professor her term was coming to an end. So he called me up, or emailed me probably, and said, hey, would you be interested in coming and teaching school in Shanghai? I was like, what a life experience. In a heartbeat. Yeah. So I was there for 3 months in 2018, from June to September 2018. And I just loved it. I loved living in a foreign city. I loved exploring and discovering the city in my own free time on weekends and evenings. And I loved being in class and building a curriculum and teaching students and working with students. It was a incredibly satisfying and fun experience.
What was your favorite thing to eat while you were there?
To eat, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, the food was so good.
Oh.
I'm a big dim sum dumpling guy. I love a good dumpling. And as you can imagine, you're in Shanghai, the heart of China. That's probably the best. Yeah. Fantastic.
I'd probably be walking around with steamed buns in each hand, double fisting, pockets full, and looking like a chipmunk. I love steamed buns. I think that's probably what I probably would have.
I think you'd be pretty happy over there.
Yeah, I could see that. What's one lesson you always emphasize to aspiring producers?
Yeah. So, you learn more from your mistakes, right? Because when things go right, you're not really aware of it, because you don't hit that hitch in the road. It's the mistakes you made when you look backwards where the lessons come from. So the mistake that I made was that producing, you learn how to produce being on a film set. And in hindsight, I realized you don't. That's so little of what I do now and what a producer does. A producer's job is in an office. A producer's job is working the phones, is working the email. It's how do I get my script that I'm trying to make, how do I get it in front of the right people? So the lesson of anyone who wants to be a producer, maybe visit a set, maybe, get a job on set once to understand, okay, this is what a gaffer does, that's what a grip does, so you're not like completely in the dark. but get a job in an office. Work for a producer, work at an agency, work in a production company, work at a studio, be in an office and see how films are put together. Listen to what the conversations that are happening. Let's say you work for a producer. Who does your boss talk to all day long? Who is it that they're sending material to? How do they present that material? So if you want to be a producer, get yourself a job in an office at an assistant level and just witness and soak it in.
I only have a couple more. The time has flown, which is good for me. If you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of career advice, what would it be?
So one is the one I just gave you, so I won't repeat myself. I spent too much time on set. I didn't understand. So I was like a line producer, production manager, and I was like on set. So I was like, don't spend your time doing that. That's number one. Oh. Number two is I don't like the word regret because, you can get stuck in regrets, but one of my wish I had done things differently is the TV business now is so rich. It's where all, great storytelling, incredible talent. Everybody is making phenomenal material for television. I was so focused on feature films that the first, decade or two of my career, I was only looking at feature films. I wasn't interested in television. I didn't try to make TV. I didn't build those relationships. I didn't build those muscles. I didn't develop television series. Now, looking back, I'm like, and I am now. I'm creating series and developing series and pitching series. But I wish I'd started doing that because the build-up time is long. It takes a while. Mm-hmm. So I wish I had given myself more of a runway to start pitching and developing for television sooner.
So my last question, were there any items that you wanted to get to, you wanted to be able to talk about, maybe we didn't get to, you had a list maybe, and you're like, I would love to offer this to some of the listeners, any of those items?
I'm not saying this just to say it. You did a phenomenal job. Your questions were great. I wasn't prepared in advance, so I didn't know what was coming. But I think, Donato, you're very good at this. I'm going to be very, very selfish. Here's what I'm going to ask. Okay. Can I plug a couple of my projects? Can I use your platform? That's how I think in terms of covering topics, you did a phenomenal job. But I have a couple of things that are live right now, out, current. I have a series on Hulu. It is on Hulu, but it's also on YouTube called Forget About It. Animated adult series, and Forget is spelled F-U-G-G-E-T. We just dropped some new material. It's a really popular show. We have a great cult following, but people seem to enjoy it, and we just put out some new content. So I'm really trying people's attention to it. So on YouTube, please go and check out Forget About It. And then
what is that based in Canada? What's in Regina?
Oh my God, I'm so impressed. That's exactly right. It's a New York mafia family. Think of Tony Soprano, who is forced to go to a witness relocation program, and he's put in Regina, Canada. So it's completely different worlds as you can imagine. Total fish out of water. That's what Forget About It is. So please check that out on YouTube. And the most recent film that just came out a couple of weeks ago and is is now available on video on demand and download. Will be on streamers soon. I was very close and dear friends with Bob Saget. He was a really close, good friend of mine. And he was one of the guys that was in the Cayman Islands with me, and one of the guys that we had this beautiful experience together living in the bubble. And his last film is called Daniel's Gotta Die. And we made it together, and it just came out a couple of weeks ago. And I love Bob dearly, and I miss him dearly. And I'd love for people to see his final film and his work and be aware of what he did. He's making people laugh and entertaining people. And that movie's called Daniel's Gotta Die, and I'd love people to see it.
Yeah. This was fun.
Me too.
I looked up at the time, and I saw it was 24 minutes, and then I looked up again, and I was at 51, and I was like, "You gotta be kidding me!" But to be respectful of your time and the opportunity was a pleasure, Nicholas. This was incredible. I learned a lot. I enjoyed it, and I like to leave a little meat on the bone because that leaves the door open to come back. And
anytime
we could talk again.
Anytime. Be happy to. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, Nicholas, thanks again. Everyone, you now know just a little bit more of the behind the scenes. Thanks again, Nicholas.
Thank you.
We'll see you.